Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to F1 News, and day one here at the Bahrain Grand Prix is over. Practice is done and dusted, and so many topics to dive into today. A fascinating day, no doubt. Verstappen with a few words to say for Mercedes before the day continues, but ends the day P1 regardless for Red Bull. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's crack straight on with things. So, before the day even began, there was a few things going on. First of all, Lewis Hamilton reveals his helmet for the upcoming season, going back to the yellow that he had way back in the day. It's an interesting yellow, really. It's not quite that McLaren yellow that he used to have. It's almost like a greenish yellow, to be honest. I still think it looks kind of nice. I thought it was cool. Like the purple, I don't know, I kind of liked it, but still, going back to the roots from the karting days, and then of course early McLaren days as well, with the yellow helmet, I thought it was pretty cool. This is what it looks like on the big screen. Plenty of bumping around for this helmet once again today, to be honest, here in FP1. Yeah, some teams have got the hang of the porpoising, some teams certainly have not. Mercedes, if anything, probably the worst affected of all teams. They were trying all sorts today, and it really doesn't seem to be working. So, we'll see how that develops for this team. But right now, they're not in an ideal position, even though Verstappen might not necessarily agree. Who knows what they might be holding back, but it doesn't seem like all that much, to be honest, at the moment. There also was this that came out, so Lando Norris kind of says, yellow helmet stuff. Thanks for the helmet. Tribute to me at Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis comes back and says, well, actually, I was using yellow before you were even born. So in retrospect, yours is a tribute to me. Respect, he says. So I thought pretty funny stuff between the two of them at the end of the day. But both struggling somewhat too on day one of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Of course, all could change. We are kind of wondering how much we'll really see out of these cars until qualifying comes around. But I think a lot of people have a reasonable idea, especially if you look at the pecking order after day one here, compared to what the pecking order people thought they were going to get after testing. It's relatively similar once again. We'll dive into that here in a second. Firstly, just this to mention as well, so a further 3 kilograms have been added to the minimum car weights. I believe it was 795, now it's 798. I believe that no team apart from Alfa Romeo had actually made the weight limits, some other minimum weight limits, so now it's 3 kilos higher. And I think even Alfa Romeo, they wanted to strengthen their floor to some degree, which would have required some extra weight. So yes, these cars are very heavy, increased by 46 kilos between last year and now. So in the slow corners, they're going to be a handful to deal with, as the drivers have most certainly already been working out. This then from Verstappen before the day even kicks off. Of course, Mercedes have definitely been downplaying the strength of their car. I'm pretty sure even the engineers have been coming out and saying, well, look, we're not in the place we wanted it to be. The upgrades haven't really had the desired effect. The other teams have got much better handle on the porpoising, and we're way behind where we want to be right now. I think Lewis said a few days ago it's going to take him 4 races plus to really catch up to their competition, and they don't really expect to be challenging for pole and the race win this weekend. So of course, this could be classic Mercedes stuff, or with the new era, they might actually be in a pretty difficult situation, as pretty much everyone seems to agree right now they might be, but Verstappen isn't necessarily so convinced. He says, I think they'll be dead last. According to their comments, I think they have an awful car, and that's exactly what they've had already since 2017 in pre-season testing, right? So they're saying that for the last 4 or 5 years, they've always kind of downplayed the strength of their car, always saying it's awful, and then as it turns around, they're actually pretty damn good. But yeah, definitely holding no prisoners back here, Max Verstappen. He seems that, and the other drivers as well, Sainz said a few days ago, fed up maybe of the kind of BS that Mercedes sometimes peddle, but maybe this time they're actually, right on the money, and then they're not really going to be competing. Like Lewis and the drivers, you can maybe expect them to say this kind of stuff, but when the engineers, who are usually pretty straight as an arrow, at least some of them, come out and say similar things, you have to wonder, okay, maybe Mercedes really are struggling so far. Seems like we saw that once again today, but some teams certainly in a different boat. Alpine also tried some different side pods on their car today. I actually mentioned this yesterday, what the new ones look like, and the funny thing is that within a few laps of testing, the carbon fiber just straight up falls off the car. It was coming onto the straight, a little bit of bouncing, and then the carbon fiber just completely self-destruct. So taking cooling to a new level, or of course the no side pod design that Mercedes have gone with, taking that to a new level as well. So yes, not ideal at all. I believe they got it fixed and it was okay from then onwards. Also, Alfa Romeo and Bottas are having a pretty tough time. I believe he was having some misfiring issues with his engine that were slowing him down in FP1. But in FP2, he actually did turn things around quite nicely. This was the final classification after FP1. Kind of surprising, really. Pierre Gasly topping the timesheets. Yes, he was on the soft tyre for the kind of final stint. Leclerc and Sainz on the Ferrari on the medium tyre. Russell right behind him on the soft. Hamilton in 7th at this point, and Bottas didn't even get a time on the board given the issues he was having. But FP2 is maybe more representative of where the teams sit right now. As we go into this picture, actually, a very similar picture to what we end up seeing after FP2, which then, Leclerc and Sainz 2 and 3. We get a different driver in the middle, though, when we get to FP2. So very interesting, the consistency of Ferrari. Definitely expect them to be challenging this weekend. So does Horner, we'll look at here in a second. Then FP2 kicks off, and this was at the early standings, I thought it was quite remarkable. Alonso P1 at Sainz Leclerc, as we just looked at. Then Kevin Magnussen and Mick Schumacher in 4th and 5th for Haas. So they were looking pretty strong today. They did fall down the pecking order in the end, and they were saying that yes, they were putting in some good times last weekend in the testing, but they reckon that a lot of the other teams are leaving some engine modes, they're leaving some potential on the table, let's just say. But still, Haas are looking pretty good. Most people say right now that probably Haas are not going to be the worst team this year. They might be, lower middle, general pack or whoever. Even I'm pretty sure Norris said a few days ago that they might be challenging McLaren for 4th. So who knows, right, where Haas are going to be this year. But exciting to see they may actually be competitive. Certainly, well, Magnussen was putting in a good lap. He went up to 2nd actually with this 1:33.1. But well, certainly things got a lot quicker from there as the cooling track comes through. Like at the later laps tend to be a little bit quicker. Pretty much exactly what Verstappen did a week or so ago at the final day of testing. Like well, basically the same thing happens once again. At this point, it was also pretty remarkable. Hamilton was having some issues with his DRS. I believe the DRS just was malfunctioning. He also had some brake issues. So yeah, certainly not with the ideal weekend at all for Mercedes or Hamilton so far. But yeah, at this point, he was actually, well, getting bettered by Bottas, a team that a lot of people expect the Alfa Romeo to be one of the worst teams going into this season. But it seems like all Bottas has to do is leave Alfa Romeo and he's going to be above Hamilton in the standings here. So quite remarkable stuff. There was also a bit of a tussle going on. I'm pretty sure Tsunoda was under investigation for a couple of different incidents. Like Leclerc and the Ferrari guys were trying to go for a hot lap. Tsunoda was on kind of a longer run, even though a little bit strange really, because Leclerc was actually, I'm pretty sure all the other drivers on the track were generally on longer runs, and then Ferrari went to go for a hot lap. Tsunoda kind of got in his way, and there were some frustrations going back and forth. Believe this has gone into investigation. I'm pretty sure there was another one as well. Halfway through FP2, it looked like this. Bottas was up to P3 at this point. Leclerc had just gone fastest with a 1:32.2. He went on to improve on that a little bit later, but Verstappen came up the field as well. And just a quick look actually at the Mercedes, right, and seeing, I mean, look at Hamilton's new yellow, kind of greenish almost helmet in certain lights, just bouncing up and down on the straights. Not ideal. I believe even Russell lost part of his front wing or something just because of the bouncing. So yes, not ideal at all for the Mercedes, no doubt. This also just mentioned from Chris Midland, and Mercedes said as well, he was losing time on the straights. That was Lewis with the malfunctioning DRS. So yeah, definitely not the ideal day for Mercedes at all. And this is how it ends after FP2. So Verstappen P1, Leclerc P2, Sainz P3. So I mean, yeah, great day overall for the Ferrari, but still Verstappen finds a way to get to the top of the timesheets. The only driver into the 1:31s on the day, 20 laps completed, 1:31.9, not too dissimilar from the time he set last week. Leclerc, Sainz right behind, even though, well, Leclerc actually 0.1 behind, Sainz further, well, pretty much half a second back. So quite a disparity here, to be honest. George Russell in P4, Hamilton down in P9. The Aston Martins had a difficult day down here as well, and then, it was Daniel Ricciardo actually in P18. Obviously not much time to practice in the car last weekend. Williams a little bit further down than that. The Alpha Tauri, despite Gasly being P1 in the first session, didn't really do all that much in FP2. But yeah, I mean, the Haas is pretty much middle of the field. Very interesting day, to be honest. Like, very exciting how this is going to develop over the coming days as well. This also, just because Horner mentioned it, I mean, classic stuff really. Ferrari could well be the car to beat tomorrow. So we shall see, right? Obviously qualifying tomorrow, FP3 in the morning. Like, yeah, Ferrari, at least in terms of consistency across the drivers, they've been pretty phenomenal so far, not just in testing, but also here in day one. So maybe they are the car to beat, but yeah, Verstappen seems to be doing a good job and still putting himself up to P1. This is also quite interesting, actually, if you just consider the drivers, like, well, the top drivers from each team, at least in terms of standings, this is what you get in terms of theoretical competitive order after FP2, which is indeed very similar, actually, to what we kind of theorized it might be after, well, testing last week and what most people's power rankings look like coming into the year. So Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, Alpine, Alfa up here in 5 with Bottas's quick lap. Actually, I didn't really look at that in detail, but Bottas was up here in P6 for Alfa Romeo. Some impressive stuff, no doubt. And yeah, then Alpine, Alfa, Haas actually in P6, McLaren, Alfa Tauri, Aston Martin, Williams. So not a great day for Aston Martin and McLaren, especially, actually, at a pretty tough time. So who knows quite how things will change over the weekends. But this also to mention as well, speaking of Mercedes, because there was a talk between Lewis and the new president, right? And I'm kind of talking about diversity, inclusion, this type of stuff. It was also mentioned that because Hamilton failed to turn up to this like FIA or the F1 gala, whatever it was, after Abu Dhabi last year, he's going to have effectively a €50,000 fine, which quite interesting, to be honest, whether that should even be a thing or not, right, given the whole circumstances around that moment. But still, Hamilton's made a decision to make a donation, which I believe he went on to describe as a fine, but they're kind of describing it as a donation towards a charitable cause, which I suppose can only be a good thing at the end of the day. But it is still rather interesting that's even a decision the FIA decided to come to. And well, as Lewis supposedly says, there is some sort of a fine. We, the kind of FIA gala, we all work together to make sure the money will be put together towards youth from underprivileged backgrounds getting into motorsports engineering. So I guess cool stuff at the end of the day. And just to finish off with this, Gasly's new kind of supporting Ukraine helmet for this weekend. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tells you YouTube gods this is a good video. Others like you should see it as well. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.